We come to get you. Here we come to get you. Here we come to get you. I don't know if that theme song going to stick around for this year, but we're back with another premium primetime Buff Talk on BuffTime Podcast with myself, Bigg Dogg Chico, and one and only Brian Howell coming to me live from Boulder, Colorado. And we have some Buff news and updates to get to you today. So before we get started, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, comment, follow Brian on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, myself, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all social media, Bigg Dogg Chico. And you should get the best of the best with the best, talking about Coach Prime and Colorado. So as we jump into this thing right quick, I think Brian is coming on in a second, and I'll be live right now until my dog comes on. And we're going to talk about some of these things that's going on in the news, that's obviously in the news and taking over the sports world today, so to speak. And that is the Colorado Buffaloes, as I'm on here with my hoodie on. Yep. The Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime and all of the movements that's been going on with the transfer portal. And, of course, Coach Prime been dabbed as the king of the portal, and it is portal season right now. I call it Portal Prime, and that's what the season that we're in right now with Colorado football, with the guys who are coming in who are rumored to be visiting today after we just got a commitment from UNLV tight end who's coming home. Charlie Williams will be joining the squad at the tight end position, which we need to go ahead and continue to bulk up after the loss of Shimon Maytair after just 10 practices, right? So shouts out to Recruits Colorado. Shouts out to No Sco Zone. Shouts out to CU Buffs Football and everybody online. Y'all follow for some more. We shall see. But first off, we have some guys coming in. I want to note this one guy because we will be talking about running backs in here in a second. Uh-oh. Now I can add my guy to the stage. All right, here we go. Brian, you back on. How you doing?
Sorry about that.
Yes,
in
sir.
The car today, so we got the technical difficulties. But how you doing, Chico?
I'm good. We switched it up a little bit. But what's going on?
Yeah, we're not going to make the in the car thing a routine. I mean, you did it last week, me this week, but you kind of do what you have to do some days.
Exactly. It happens like that. With this technology stuff, with us not being in the same place, it's bound to happen.
The important thing is we'll talk Buffs no matter where we're sitting, right?
Exactly. No matter where we are on God's green earth, we will be talking to Buffs and that old school turf. And now we got the new turf out there on the field now, going down to Folsom Field. But, hey, we got some guys leaving the turf and some guys coming in. We had a bunch of official visits going on today with some recruits. We'll leave them nameless for now, but we'll at least talk about the quality of recruits that been brought in this week with Coach Devin Rispis and the young coach, Corey Phillips, and Coach Prime. Can you talk about some of the guys that may be coming in the holes that we're looking to fill?
Yeah, not going with names. I try not to get too excited about guys until they commit, just because we see so many guys come in sometimes. But clearly, what I liked about Coach Prime's presser this week is he, there was a lot of things, but he went through and said the specific positions, what they're looking for, right? We know that in offensive linemen. I mean, they've only got 10 committed right now. You probably like to have about 15 on a team, and so they're going to have some there. Defensive linemen. He made a point of saying linebackers. He said that plural. With Alton McCaskill leaving, there's going to be a running back, at least one that comes in here. They're probably good at receiver, but he also mentioned DB. There's going to be some guys come in. So there's a lot of dogs coming in a lot of different positions. And, he also pointed out, Chico, that there's not a ton of starters out there, that mainly what they're looking for is depth. And that makes me believe that they feel good about their starting groups on both sides of the ball, but they just want to make sure that they have some more depth, because injuries will happen, of course.
Yeah, injuries will happen, and you need that depth, especially if you're planning to go deep into the playoffs or making a run for a national championship, which I've been hearing around, the facility, natty run, natty run. So, you got to have that depth on the offensive and defensive line.
Yep.
And all the plugs, all the holes will have to be plugged at every position that you're looking at. Let's go to the running back room because we lost big back Alton McCaskey. A lot of people had him as running back one. Some had him, fighting for that position with Dylan Edwards and the guys in the running back room. But he's out of the door. We saw just, yesterday or today that Coach Prime has elevated one of his favorites. That's Charlie Offerdahl, who's a walk-on, and he's elevated him to the second string. I kind of broke it down, which I thought from my perspective on my live, which is with Alton leaving, Dylan's going to be naturally that one. Savion Wilkerson, who was 3, will naturally be that 2, but he's hurt and not practicing right now.
Right.
Then you have the freshman Michael Welch, who's really been coming along. He could probably be moved up to that 3, but to show respect to what Charlie's been putting in for the last few seasons and just being that consistent guy and being that model student athlete, just getting praised for having a 4.0. Oh, hey, man, let's elevate Charlie right here. The freshman's still going to be the freshman having to work. If he do his thing, he's going to, of course, get up there. But now you got Charlie reaping some of, the good that he's been putting in by being the number 2 back right now on paper until Coach Prime says something about it. What do you feel about the running back room and Charlie being elevated?
Yeah, well, first off, I know you're a big fan of Alton McCaskill, and I was too. And so I know you and I were both surprised by him leaving. I'm sad to see him go because I felt like he was going to be a really good player. We just talked about it earlier this week, I believe, about what kind of player he could be. And then I thought it was interesting too, real quick, when Coach Prime yesterday said, well, what are we leaving? And that was me that said, well, potential starters. And he said, where? And I said, running back and tight end.
That was you? Oh, no, yeah. That was you, though.
Yeah, that was me that said potential starters. And, when I mentioned tight end and running back, and he kind of was like, nah, I mean, you haven't watched practice. And so clearly if they don't think he's a potential starter, and you look at the post by Alton McCaskill's dad, then, he apparently was not in that position, that it makes sense for him to move on. Alton's a pretty good player, but I guess they don't see him in the future here. So when you look at that, I do like the running back position still with Dylan Edwards, Michael Welch. I like Savion Wilkerson when he's healthy. And Charlie, I've told you before, I don't talk about him too much because he's a walk-on, and I really don't believe that they're going to give a ton of carries to a walk-on unless they have to, even though they like him. But it's hard to put him down, because every time he gets an opportunity, all he does is make plays. And I can't remember if it was last year with Coach Prime, but we used to call him Charlie Often Ball because
Often
he would
ball. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, he'd get an opportunity and he just goes and balls, and so him being second team right now is really good for him. I don't know if he'll be that when the season starts because, they're going to add another running back or two. But if nothing else, if you're in that running back room and Charlie, there's a walk on ahead of you, that's got to motivate, Michael Welch or Dylan Edwards. And, and you see Alton McCaskill go, that's got to motivate them as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll push back on 2 things you said, if I can remember all of or 3 things. One of them is saying Charlie, they won't get carries to Charlie being that he's a walk-on. What if that changes before the season and he gets a scholarship based on what he's been doing? And, would that change your mind then? And then secondly, excuse me, Ultimate Caskill came out and basically cut any type of ties or denounced the post that was made by his father saying that he had nothing to do with that personally.
Mm-hmm.
That was his dad making his own post independent of himself. That post has now been deleted or since been deleted. And Alton basically said, hey, that was him making that post. It does not reflect myself, my character, or my thoughts. So I think we should take that as that. And then thirdly, the running back room. Yes, I think we'll add another guy, and that may change the status of what Charlie is right now, being that second team guy. That may change the status with Ohio State running back coming in to visit and a couple of other guys there. that we're kind of circling around. So we'll see how that plays out. But I like the gesture that Coach Prime is doing, and is not giving anything to Charlie, but more or less what Charlie has earned, I think. So
Yeah,
it's a good thing to see that.
and those are good points. And I will say, yes, if Charlie earns that scholarship, I think that totally changes my perception of him, because that would mean that they see him as a guy that can contribute, because I don't think they're going to give a scholarship to a guy they don't think can contribute, right? And so I think if he does earn that scholarship, but I also think, I know Charlie a little bit, that scholarship or not, he's going to play the same way. And if he gets the opportunity, I think he can excel, and he can get some yards and some carries. For the CU fans that weren't watching 2 years ago when they were terrible, Charlie got to play a little bit, and he had a couple nice games, and he would have some nice runs out there, even on a terrible team. And so, scholarship or not, if he gets the opportunity, he'll do well with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. So Coach Prime said he wanted to add offensive linemen, wanted to add defensive linemen, and linebackers with an S.
Yeah.
Any insight on that? Where do you think we should be going? Do we have the potential to even really fill those holes like that? Like, are those players out there in the portal to bring in to fill those holes?
Yeah, the players are out there. The quality is what I would I don't know about question, but be curious about what they can get, because with so many linemen you've brought into this point, you have to wonder, linemen looking at it saying, am I going to get a chance to start, with all these guys coming in? Do they have to go get maybe younger guys that have redshirted or not played much of their previous school? Like some of the guys they got last year, like a David Connor, who came in after redshirting his first year at Florida, who they really liked, when he came in last year. Do they have to get guys like that? Could they potentially go the JUCO route? They got a couple of JUCO kids last year, and like Isaiah Jada, Kareem Harden, guys like that who played a little bit last year. Jada, we know, is back in the transfer portal, but those could be the types of guys they get. But there's players out there. I think there's talent out there, but I would still look at the group that's here being the starting five. And maybe you do land a starter, but I think that for the most part, the starters are probably here.
Interesting. Okay, so who would be your starters and at what position off the top of your head, if you can bring it out?
Off the top of my head, and again, this is we don't get to watch practice, and so we're just going off of well-off videos, but Hank Zelinskas, I think, would be the center. I think that Justin Mayers and Rock, would be, your two guards. And then at tackle, you've got to go Jordan Seaton, and then probably Khalil Benson.
Okay.
Or Tyler Johnson.
Yeah. And we've seen Tyler Johnson really working, not with the first team, but with the second team mostly this spring. Yeah.
Yeah. And he has been, but obviously there's an opportunity there if he can move forward, to maybe grab a spot there. But that's probably the group I would look at. Yakiri Walker, who came in from UConn, would be that other center candidate, but I would probably give the nod to Hank Zelinskas right now. That's who we've mostly seen with the first team, it seems like, on the well-off videos.
And I would think on the offensive line still, the positions that we probably would need to add more depth would be where I would say probably at that tackle spot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah.
I think they got some good guards and they got some depth there. Because like a Kareem Harden is still here, and I like him more. He's probably more of a guard than a tackle, but you probably want to get another tackle or two. Okay.
All right. And he mentioned the linebackers, and we've been seeing, of course, the returners, Trevor Woods and Levante Bentley, still working as the ones, respectfully together. What about the guys like Wester and JB and other guys back there? Do they have a chance to crack that starting spot, or do the seniors have it on lock? And should we expect to be bringing in guys who can push from that transfer portal, guys who can push for that starting position?
Yeah, I would think right now Bentley and Woods are pretty locked in as the starters. I would think that Wester and Jeremiah Brown and guys like that can be good backups, but I don't see them pushing those other two for the starting role. I could see them finding someone in the portal that could push for a starting role, though, and maybe you can find a linebacker who wants that change of scenery, that comes in and pushes for a starting job. If you can find, a Jawan Mitchell type that can actually help you and stay off the phone in pregame, things like that. That keeps himself on the field, and he was a good player, right? It's unfortunate it didn't work out better last season. But if you can find a guy like that, a guy that maybe just needs that second chance, I think they can find a guy. But I think right now, based on the guys that are here, I think it's Bentley and Woods.
Bentley and Woods. All right, we got a few more minutes left in the show. We got about 200 people watching. I don't know if we have 200 likes. Y'all hit the like button. If you haven't already, share this thing. Get in the comment section because I will be reading some comments the last few minutes of the show. Cornerback spot. I made a post. I see a guy, and I was wondering about this because I see a guy that's that's listed in the transfer portal as a cornerback, great size, coming from Arizona. But when you research him, you'll see that he's still practicing with Arizona, or at least he did this past week. How does that work when guys enter the portal? And for the people out there listening in who might be, unfamiliar with it, how does that work when guys enter the portal? Do their name go in there? Do they continue practicing? I'm sure on our end we don't see these guys practicing. So why would we see a guy practicing whose name is in the portal?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen it where a guy will keep practicing, but that could be a situation where, and I don't know specifically if this is it, but if there's an agreement with the head coach to say, hey, I want to explore some opportunities, but I might stay here, then maybe he lets him continue to practice, and so I don't know, but that would be unique, I think, if that's happening.
Yeah, the big fella from Arizona, the cornerback, who I was saying who could possibly replace Kamani McLean, 6'4", 195 pounds. He could possibly, come in, but he's still practicing. He had 15 pass breakups last year, but he's still practicing with Arizona. So that's just a question that I had kind of personally right there, because I think there are some guys out there that we can fill in and replace, because right now, if you look at the depth chart that a lot of people been floating around on Instagram and Twitter from the first person camera from Coach Prime, they captured the depth chart on the table, and people were saying, okay, you see two walk-ons as the backup corners, Israel Solomon and Namir Robinson behind Preston Hodge. But I'm saying, hey, then you say we have 4 cornerbacks coming in, and I'm sure they might grab another one from the transfer portal. But, if you're those guys, you're looking like, this is my chance to try to step up and do something right now before the other guys come in.
Right. And they did sign the 2 corners recently out of high school that'll be here in the summer. And, there's a little bit of injury too, but, you've also got, guys like Carter Stoutmeyer looked really good at corner at times last year. He's been at safety, but, it sounds like, Kevin Mathis last week made it sound like Stoutmeyer's playing a little more corner as well. So he's versatile, at least he can play there. And so you've got some guys that can play at corner. So I think they're okay. I like the corner spot they have now. There's certainly some depth opportunities out there. Omarion Cooper obviously is still on this team and played some good corner last year as well. So
yeah, I was going to mention him, but he's listed as a strong safety right now on that depth chart.
Yeah, and which is interesting because I thought he played some pretty good cornerback last year for much of the season until they last half of the year they were working Cormani in there more, and Omarion kind of lost his spot. But I thought he played well for a good chunk of the season. So the point is you have options, and they've talked a lot about the versatility in the secondary. I don't think they're hurting for talent in the secondary, or at corner specifically. But certainly you got some of those walk-ons. Israel Solomon, by the way, is a pretty good player. And Namir Robinson's got some speed and shiftiness to him as well. So these are not like bad walk-ons. These are talented kids. So
yeah, exactly.
I think you got some good options there.
Yeah, shouts out to Adam Hopkins, also the former All-American at wide receiver. He's at cornerback. And we did have a loss today. Eric Brantley, the young fella, he's transferring out 6'3", 230 pounds. What do you? I'm sorry. He was what, 6 foot? I got the wrong up here. It was like 6'2", 230 pounds. But Brantley is out of there at the rush end. Um, does that hurt, or are we gonna? We got other guys coming in, but me myself, I kind of answered my own question earlier, saying that we got BJ Green coming in. We have Arlen Walker, who's still hurt. We lost Kyrie Mans, but you still have Okunlola on the outside, who's been showing improvements and making plays. What do you feel about that loss, and why do you think Brantley made that move?
Yeah, he was one of my. There wasn't a whole lot of high school guys coming in, right? But he was one of my favorite ones. I mean, he was very productive as a pass rusher in high school. Has some pretty good talent. I don't think he would have seen the field a lot this year anyway, just being that true freshman. But from what I've heard, is just some homesickness with him. He's from Georgia, and that's a big move. From Georgia, if you've never left home, to come from the south end of the country to Colorado, it's not only a long way away, but it's very different from Georgia. It's some culture shock a little bit. So I've heard, I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that it was homesickness with him, and that there was no issue with the staff or anything like that, or no problems with him. It was more of just he just wanted to be closer to home. So we'll see where he lands. He's a talented player. I'm just not sure he helped this year.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing too. Shouts out also to Nikhil Webb Walker. Look like he's been showing some flashes at practice also. So we got a few questions. If we can get some few questions in. Few questions before we get up out of here. Ask Brian why the reporters didn't ask about depth chart when Prime said he had it.
That's a good question. I thought the same thing when I went back and re-listened to the interview. I was like, oh, we should have asked about that. But one of the reasons is that, there's only a limited amount of time you get. And sometimes you may only get one question with Coach Prime, and everybody's kind of got their question in their head. And so there's that limited time. And frankly, for me, it left my mind after he moved on, went on to something different. So, my bad on that one. But I actually thought the same thing when I went back and I was re-listening and transcribing the interview. I was like, oh, why didn't we ask about that depth chart?
Right. Tell us about the weather right now, because we saw it sunny, then we saw sleet. And what's going on right now?
Right now, it's about 35 degrees, and we got some rain. It's just wet out here. My son is supposed to play a baseball tournament tomorrow. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, it's too wet around here right now.
Wow. All right. Well, hopefully the weather gets better. I know it's up and down until right after the spring game. What is it looking like for the spring game? I heard it's looking like it's going to be the same way for the spring game.
Yeah, it could be the same, but you never know around here. It could be 70 degrees next Saturday, or like last year, it could snow. So we'll see. I don't know. I haven't looked at the forecast the last few days. It changes all the time, but you never know in April in Colorado, any time of year, but especially April, what it's going to be like. But I'm hoping it's warmer than it is right now, because it's a little too chilly for a spring game right now.
All right. Last question. Who, if you had to book someone, because we saw another booking being added to Coach Prime's show, the show with Lil Wayne, Boss Man, D-Lo Rapper, and then YG, who just got added. Who, if Brian was making the booking, who would Brian be booking to sell out Boulder for Prime weekend? Who would be the guy that would sell out right now? Ram.
You're talking musical act, right?
I'm talking musical. Well, I mean, is there another type? Let me see. What's another type? I don't know. Tell me.
I guess it could be comedy or something like that. But man, okay. I don't know. That I will say that's not my genre of music. But I'm trying to think what my kids listen to. But there's got to be. I'm old school, so I would say if you can get a Snoop Dogg, something like that, to come to the event center, that might do it.
All right, I've had some people tell me Taylor Swift. I had people say Post Malone. I think Post Malone. Yeah. I think both of those would sell out anywhere they go.
Well, yeah, right? Taylor, of course. Taylor would sell out Mile High Stadium. So you certainly sell out Folsom Field. If this thing, they still need to sell about 30,000 tickets for the spring game. If you announce that Taylor Swift was singing the national anthem, that would probably take care of it.
Yes. So there it is, guys. We need to bring in Taylor or Post Malone to get this thing done. But I think eventually, might be a little bit slow right now, but eventually those ticket sales will pick up. And yeah, Coach, holla at Snoop Dogg. Get Snoop there in the dog pound.
There's a lot of people that could probably bring out some tickets, but yeah, they will sell more. I do think if the forecast is good, if we get to like next Monday, Tuesday, and it looks like it's going to be 60, 70, I think we'll see some. I don't think this is going to be a sellout. I will say that, but to give perspective, the previous record attendance for a CU spring game was like 17,800, and so blew that away. They're already over 20,000 tickets this year, so this year is already going to be top two, and the other one was last year. So even if it's not a sellout, it's still unbelievable attendance. And that 17.8, by the way, was before they sold. Those were free tickets, and so even when it was free, you couldn't get even 18,000 people here as a max. And so even if it's 25,000 sold tickets, that's pretty impressive.
Wow, 25,000 sold tickets. If we can do that, yes, get it done, and then and hopefully the weather will help improve that, because I know from doing events, the weather can really put a damper on some things. As far as having the masses come out. All some people need is an excuse. It's gonna be too wet. I ain't going.
Right. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people too that coming off of 4-8 are a little, the shine is off a little bit. If they were coming off 8-4, I think they'd probably be pretty close to sold out. But coming off 4-8, you got more transfer portal stuff going on, and lots of guys leaving at this point. I think there's a little bit of shine off of it, but there's still obviously plenty draw to this game.
Well, yeah, I think because it was so hyped last year, first time, and then it's second time around, so it's kind of hard to sell the second time around as the same way as the first time, but still, with everything going on around it, I think it's going to be a great attendance, a better team. People will realize this is a better team, and we can't wait to get to it, baby. So primetime weekend coming up, but before that, we got another week of practice, and we will be right here giving you the updates on this premium primetime Buffs Talk with the BuffTime Podcast with Brian and Chico. Brian, I appreciate you joining me, man. Hopefully we can get you out of there and get to where you need to go to right now. All right? Be safe on your drive.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys. Hey, everybody in the comment, we appreciate you guys in the comment section. Leave a like, subscribe, and all the other good stuff, man. We're going to be up and about this day. Another podcast edition for BuffTime Podcast. But wait, before I get up out of here, I wanted to say this podcast is for this. Put it in the comments. This podcast is for. There we go. We got Buffs fans and Prime fans, and we're coming together, and we're forming like Voltron. You understand me? Hit the like button if you haven't already. Shouts out to William Berry, Crystal Wise Williams, Go Bucks, Tremaine Young, Mr. Hillsman, Eric, Carpet Tech, that boy Rico, Cam Duncan. Who else we got in here? Everybody on Facebook. Shout out to you guys. Baby T.O., he's not on the roster yet. He's not there right now. He will be when he get there. Holla at Travis and Jason. Get Taylor, okay. They need to have a little bow wow on the list. Get a little bow wow. Excellent question, Chico. I hate you, guy, Brian. What? Dang, I got to start reading y'all stuff before I put it on here, man. Don't hate on my dog, man. Supposed to be like 60 and raining from Alpine Garage. All right. Shouts out to Alpine Garage Sports and everybody else. May y'all run them likes up. Run them likes up if you haven't already. Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys coming out. God bless you. And good night. Another edition of BuffTime Podcast. Yeah. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom.